We're actually starting at 11:40. So if you have friends or you need to go to the bathroom or anything, hurry up and do that because we're starting soon. Yay! Everybody's excited. Woo!
Just starting it, so I hope you're ready. We are winning it. Can't you see we're shining? Hour after hour, we're just getting better. We are running stronger. See love makes us greater. And it's stopping. So I hope you're ready. We're not here to party, but we're not here to party.
Hello, everybody! And welcome to the second day of TED Talks. Who's ready? Let me hear it. Woo! Yeah! First up, we are going to have Brady Bean, hailing from Utah and Montana, a junior at BYUI studying communications with an emphasis on strategy and organization. He loves playing sports and working with others. Today, we're going to learn about the 3 C's of leadership. Let's give it up for Brady. Woo!
How's it going? Test, 1, 2. Okay. Okay, to start, I need everyone to raise their hand if you like superheroes. Raise them high, raise them high, raise them high. There we go. That's what we like to see. Well, I love superheroes. And I want to talk a little bit about my favorite one of all time. That is, if it works, it's thinking about it. Oh, man. Okay, Captain America, right? I have always idolized this guy. I think he is so cool. He's someone that I always wanted to be. You know, he's jacked. He's good looking. He beats up bad guys for fun. This guy is super cool to me. And growing up, I always idolized him, and I always wanted to be him, kind of thing. But I study organizational leadership here at BYU Idaho, and so my brain is wired sometimes to when I think about Captain America, I think, wow, you know, what makes Captain America someone that you want to follow? What makes him like that, right? So here, I've grown up and I've done a lot of leadership experience in the past. I've been able to have some really fun times with leading some youth camps or planning some weddings, which is always really fun because the bride gets in your face a lot. And I've also been able to facilitate like a church music festival down at BYU. It's been super fun to have that adventure and to have that experience with leadership and with being able to lead and having that empirical data. So what I wanted to do is I wanted to take my empirical data, my experience in leadership, and then mix it with some scientific evidence, maybe some studies that people have done, that universities or healthcare reviews have done, and throw it all together and mix it up and then just pop out like the most important things in leadership. And that's where I was able to come up with the 3 C's of leadership: confidence, culture, and charity. So we're going to talk about each of them. First off, confidence. Leaders instill confidence, right? So something that a little story of mine to explain this is that when I was growing up, I loved playing sports. I love watching sports, right? But I love basketball and football, which is really great until you realize that when I was a sophomore in high school, I was 5'2", 100 pounds, which doesn't exactly commute to playing basketball or football very well. And so because of that, I got in my own head a little bit of like, dang, like I really want to play football and I really want to play basketball, but I'm just like, I'm not strong enough. I'm not tall enough. There's just a lot of things that I just couldn't really do as well as other people. And so what happened is that a coach realized my plight, and he came to me and he said, Brady, let me give you a little advice, right? He said, control the controllables. He said, there are certain things in your life that you can control, and there's certain things in your life you can't. Like you can't control your height, but what you can do is you can control how hard you work, how smart you are on the field or on the court, and especially like how they're noticing that your strengths, right? I was fast for being small, so that was something that I needed to work on in order to do it. That coach was able to teach me exactly what I needed to learn and exactly what I needed to do in order to grow and progress exponentially. It taught me, he probably doesn't know this, but it kind of set the whole tone for my life going forward. It taught me exactly what I need to know and exactly what I need to do going on. But not only do leaders and coaches need to instill confidence, they also need to be confident. If Captain America is telling us as we're about to go fight Hydra and win the war, right? And he's telling us, some of you may die. It's like a 1 in 6 chance we win. We probably won't win, right? That's not nearly as exciting to us, to the people that are there, that are in the moment, especially if you're like one of the army men, you suddenly don't want to follow him anymore, right? But if you were to say like, we're going to go kick their butts, We're gonna go kick their trash, right? Suddenly it changes the whole dynamic. Suddenly I'm like, yeah, we are gonna go kick their butts. I don't care if we're outnumbered, right? It changes the whole dynamic. As soon as leaders are confident and they practice what they preach, it changes the entire way that the people that are following them believe them. They start to see the idea as achievable. And so that's an important thing. If you're in a group project or if you're in your family, right, or in your home, in work, if you are a leader or even just a follower and you say that we should do something, you got to make sure that you're putting your best foot forward as well. Because if you don't, it looks hypocritical, and I think anyone can tell that we don't really like that very much. Okay, but that's confidence. Confidence is key. Secondly, we got culture, nurturing growth in an organization, right? Healthcare Management Review gave a study of healthcare facilities, 36 of them in Connecticut. And they were looking for if hierarchical and competitive cultures were better or worse than group and development cultures, right? So more of a, like, you got to be better than everyone else, you got to get that promotion, you got to work harder than everyone else, or perhaps more, okay, we're going to work through it together. If you're stuck, come ask for help, right? We're going to get through all this together. And so a lot of people would originally think, well, yeah, if we're wanting to be competitive, we want to be in a competitive work environment where we want to work hard, yeah, competitive is like the easy way to go. But they were able to actually find out that wasn't necessarily the case. Those in a group and developmental focused group or workforce, they had more productivity. Now, they also liked going to work every single day. They showed up on time. They felt like they mattered. And like I said, they had more productivity than their counterparts. So culture is the key to a group success. As a leader, or just in general, as a person in a group, you need to cultivate a culture that has positive, kind, and developmentally focused attributes. Now, you can do this each in your own specific ways. Now, you're not going to do it in the way that I do it, but you're going to do it in the way that you find best. We each have our own strengths and our own weaknesses. And that's the great thing about group culture and development, is that you can ask for help if you can apply that to your group. You can change the way that your group operates and the way that it's able to function, and it will increase productivity over time. But lastly, we got charity. Kindness brings nothing but productivity, right? It is a battle to be charitable all the time. For anyone that has kids, there's been an older brother or an older sister, or has just worked around any human being in their life ever, you know that people make mistakes, that people are idiots sometimes, and that's okay, right? But it's the response afterwards that matters. Any parent will tell you, usually from experience, that if your kid comes to you and he messes up, you don't grab him by the shoulder to be like, why did you take the car at 2 a.m. and you were grounded, right? It doesn't work that way, not with your family. And parents will realize this, right? They realize that if you attack your kid, they shut down. They take a step back. They say, oh, I don't really like this very much. They give an excuse, not a reason. And that will not bring the culture that we just talked about. It immediately takes away the culture that you spent so hard to cultivate, and it's gone in a second. That's how important charity is. That's how important being kind to others is. If you are not kind and charitable to others, then it doesn't work. Because charity is the glue that holds culture together. If you don't have charity and you don't have kindness, then suddenly your culture just doesn't exist. You can see this easily. Imagine a family that doesn't have charity. Kind of sucks. I know some of you might even be able to do more than imagine you lived it, right? Imagine a friend group that doesn't have charity. Imagine a workplace that doesn't have charity. Suddenly it gets a lot harder to work there and to be around those people. Suddenly you don't want to be around those people. Charity is the glue that holds the culture together. And charity puts confidence equals a respectable leader. Not someone that just rolls over when they're criticized or when they're told to do something else. They hear them out and they use that as motivation to help their group, right? Captain America, great example of this. He's kind, he's charitable, but he also just doesn't just roll over if he's told to do something else. This is the key to being an effective leader. All in all, these three C's of leadership, confidence, culture, and charity, when they're used together, they're able to create a very productive and happy group, family, home, anything that has to deal with any kind of organization. So, my invitation to you is to start applying these into your life, even if you're not necessarily in a leadership position. Because believe it or not, every single one of us will be called into some position of leadership in the future if you haven't already. And if you're not prepared to actually apply your leadership skills, then it's going to crash and burn. So, I invite you to apply these in your life, and I know that you can do it. See what I did there? If you can apply these into your life, I can promise that it's going to really affect the way that you use leadership in your life. So, apply them, change the world. Thank you.
Well, I know who my superhero is after hearing that speech, am I right? That was pretty good. Oh, it's kind of dark. Hey! If you don't want to see me, just say it. I'm just joking. It's great to see me, isn't it? So, before we go on to the amazing Yubo, I'm going to have you guys stand up, shake it out a little bit, and then sit back down. Make sure you guys are nice and awake for our amazing next speaker. How are you guys doing today? I'm sure a lot of you will say you're feeling great. But is that a lie? Are you guys tired? Are you sleepy? Not doing so great? There's something about a balanced lie, and Yubo is going to teach us about it. This is the Yubo. She is a senior with a communication major with an emphasis in strat. Here we are, Yubo.
Can you hear me? Okay. Perfect. So, the balanced lie. I'm sure you're wondering, what the heck is she going to talk about? But what I want to do is I want to show you a few images, okay? And while you're looking at those images, I invite you to think about symbolisms they represent, words they remind you of, or just how they make you feel, okay? Got a scale. Oh. Jeepers. Okay. Now I have a question for you guys. So, by a raise of hands, how many of you feel like your life is not balanced, equal, measured out perfectly, or the dream life that you imagine? Almost all of us, that's okay. I know with balance, all of us can relate. We have school, we have social lives, we have our physical health, mental health, spiritual health. The list goes on and on and on. And we feel this feeling of unsatisfaction, guilt, maybe shame, that we don't have everything perfectly equal and balanced like those pictures showed. Well, I'm here to tell you, me too. I've felt that guilt, I've lived through it, and I'm on the other side of it now. But in order for you to understand, let me take you back to 2020, our most favorite year, right? So 2020, I got all these emotions up here because I don't know about you guys, but I didn't know what to feel. Happy, sad, nervous, everything. So to paint the picture for you, I was a senior in high school, taking 3 classes to graduate, and 2 of them were college credits because obviously saving money, so smart. I was doing 30 plus hours of hair school. I was doing CrossFit in the evenings. I was trying to spend as much time as I could with my family. And with all that, I didn't think it was still enough. So I thought about my future and I was like, you know what? I actually want to go on a mission. So I added doing mission papers on top of all of that. And as you can imagine, March rolls around and the whole world shuts down. And instead of living this magical life of senior all-nighters, graduations, and celebrating, this wonderful achievement in my life, I was in my bedroom, crawled up in my bed with my blankie, crying, bawling my eyes out, okay? While my bed is shaking with a 5.7 magnitude earthquake that's just hit Utah. It just can't get any better, And as I was living through this moment, I didn't know what to expect in my future. I started questioning everything. And you could literally say my world was shaken. Now, well, let's just come back to the pressure that all that brought me. It was a very dark place, hard place to open up to my family, anybody trying to get help. I didn't know what was going on. But just a couple months ago, I started listening to a podcast by my friend. I don't really know him, but I feel like I do. His name's Ed Milet, and he's a entrepreneur, very successful businessman, business coach, and most importantly, a public speaker, which I look up to a lot. And so in this podcast, the title is How to Find Happiness When You're Pulled in Every Different Direction. So I'm going to go over the 3 P's that he talks about in this podcast. If it'll go over. Okay. Number 1, he talks about how the most successful people are present. They're present with the people that they're around. They're present in their classes, their business, their family. Whatever they have going on in the moment, they're present. Just like you guys are right now. You're not on your phones, you're not doing homework, but you're paying attention to the speakers. That allows you to connect with people, to maximize your ability and skills in that certain moment. And the second point is be purposeful. So when you're going about life and you're trying to decide, do I focus on my physical health, mental health? Do I focus on all the finals I have coming up? What do I focus on? You got to make sure that you understand what is your goal, what is your end result that you're seeking. Is it a good grade, or do you want to be happy? Because that's going to determine different paths you take. And along with being purposeful, he hits on an important key aspect of being proactive in our lives. And that means when we wake up, we all have phones. Instead of hopping on and looking at what the message of the media, looking at posts from our friends and their perfect life, what we can do is wake up, write in our gratitude journal. We can look at our schedule for the day, creating this purpose and proactive control of your day so that you're not a reactive being in your life. And I really like that aspect because it is hard. When your alarm goes off, you want to know what your friends said, what they have been doing. But what about you? What about your feelings? What about your goals? What about your aspirations? And the last one is, I don't know why I went so quickly. Okay, thanks to them. Is be patient. So to tie into the theme of balance, he talks about the seasons of our lives. Just like nature has winter, spring, summer, and fall, all of us in our lives have individual seasons. So for you to compare your winter to somebody else's perfect summer is unfair. So being patient when you are struggling in those deep dark moments, or when you are thriving in your life, not putting others down because you don't know if that's what season of their life they may be going through. And with this patience also comes discipline, not comparing yourself or letting other people's successes take away from your goals, your aspirations. Just because somebody's fit and an athlete doesn't mean that that's your goal or your dream. You know, maybe you want to be a public speaker, you want to be a nurse, you want to, change the world in your own way. And that's your season, that's your purpose, and being patient with that lesson. And so he concludes his podcast with letting us know that all of us have this desire to have this perfect balance. And having that desire and the pursuit of it is okay. But the paralyzing, exhausting, overwhelming need to attain it constantly in everything that you do, in your school, in the gym, with your family, with your relationships, you can't be in all those moments at once. That is impossible. And so today I want to let you guys know that even don't let the fallacy of balance diminish your worth, but instead pursue your passions and avoid the need for perfection and embrace your seasons of life.
Let's give a round of applause for you, Bo. Woo! Alrighty. So before we have our next brilliant speaker, I'm gonna make you stand up again. Do your favorite dance move. Do a little shimmy, do a little shake. Make sure you're nice and awake. Do the worm if you'd like. Okay, next up is Amelia McClay, a communications major with an emphasis in digital and social media. She's in her last semester. She hails from Tennessee. She's the only 10 I see. Get it? Her favorite color is green and she loves being creative. Let's give it up for Amelia.
Okay. Is it working? Okay. I used to think that I knew my body. That energy meant I was healthy, and that feeling tired meant I needed more sleep. And that if I ate good enough and stayed active, my body would do the rest for me. But one day, everything changed, and I had to relearn my body and how everything that I knew before had to be retaught to myself. But before we dive into that, I want to start from the beginning. 7 years ago, I was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes. It was scary, and I was going through a lot of change at that time. We had just moved to a new state. I was starting in a new school, and I just was in a brand new environment that I had never been in before. And because of that, my parents just kind of brushed off all of my symptoms onto that. I was getting pretty skinny and was feeling pretty tired. But then I started to mention the stuff more to my parents, and my mom was like, I think she might have diabetes, and my dad was like, absolutely not, she does not have that. And so my mom went out of town, and it was me and my dad, and we went to dinner together, and I filled up my drink 4 times in the 30 minutes we were sitting there. And I was just like, I cannot quench my thirst. I do not know what's wrong with me. And my dad was like, okay, let's pull up the symptoms and see how you're, like, if any of these compare. And I basically said yes to every single one. The next day, my mom was back, and she said, don't eat anything. We're going to get you to the doctor, and we are going to see what your blood sugar is at. Because I was in a new state, no doctors would take me. We went to 4 doctors, they all turned me away. So me and my mom went to Walmart and we got a glucose monitor and we pricked my finger in the kitchen. In that moment of the 3 seconds that it waited for the number to pop up, felt like a year. It was the longest moment of my life. The number that popped up was 358, which isn't super high, but we caught it pretty early. And my mom just walked out of the kitchen and left me there alone. I didn't really know what it meant, but I knew the way that she reacted that something was wrong. And in that moment, I felt very scared, but I knew that my life was about to change and that I had to be brave and take on what was about to happen. To know and fully understand what living with type 1 is like, I'll have to explain it more. According to the Mayo Clinic, it's an autoimmune disease that causes your pancreas to stop working. Your body attacks the pancreatic cells that produce insulin, and without insulin, sugar builds up in your bloodstream, and if not properly treated, can cause health issues or even death. They still don't know why your body attacks itself. That's still something that they're trying to figure out. But I'm so grateful that I got diagnosed now than when it first came to be. When it first became, the treatment was a starvation diet. They said, if you don't eat, you'll live a couple more days, weeks, sometimes months, just depending. But now technology has advanced so much. I now wear an insulin pump and a glucose monitor at all times during the day, and they correspond with each other. I'm constantly getting insulin and checking my sugar. I get a new reading every 5 minutes. And they've even started beta cell testing, which people that have lived with diabetes their whole life have now gone a whole year without having to treat themselves. So with all of this and the science behind it, there's a lot of progress, but you still have to relearn your body and relearn to live in the body that you've known before. I started receiving new signals. I'm feeling very tired. Is my blood sugar high? I'm feeling hungry. Is my blood sugar low? Am I shaky right now because I'm anxious and nervous? Or is my blood sugar dropping really quickly and I need to go fix it? Every way that my body was feeling became a new question to me. And I was having to learn a new stream of data. Blood sugar readings, carb counting, insulin doses, graphs, arrows, alarms. It felt like a new language that I didn't really understand and I was having to learn. It's been 7 years now, and I've slowly started to learn that being more active after I eat helps drop my blood sugar. That stress from school, living in a place with altitude, lack of sleep can all cause issues, and not having a constant routine. But I've been able to look at patterns to track and test and try again until I am able to succeed. And I was able to stop seeing it as broken and start adapting to a new life of living. Yes, my pancreas stopped working and it's basically a dead organ that I have to teach and tell it what to do every day. But it's forced me to become disciplined and more kind to my body than I ever was before. Sometimes it's humbling and frustrating, but I'm still able to do everything that I loved doing before, just with a little bit more attention to it. And having this diagnosis and not knowing where it would take me, I've become so proud of myself. It's something that to others might look invisible and you might not have even known that it's there, but it's a constant in my life. There's a statistic out there that says that diabetics make about 200 more decisions throughout their day than an average person does. So it's taught me a lot, and it's on my brain all the time. But with this, even if you don't have diabetes, it has taught me that our body is a lifelong relationship that we have. We have to keep it healthy. We have to learn and listen and be patient, and to forgive ourselves. But with me having diabetes, I've just been more aware of that. But when I look back now, I don't see a diagnosis. Relearning my body didn't take anything away. It taught me awareness and gratitude, and the ability to live my life even when it feels like I'm drowning. Our bodies are always talking to us. And to everyone listening, I hope that you can take with you that your body is not your enemy and it's your lifelong teacher, and we're with it for the rest of our lives. And the most powerful thing we can do is listen and be nice to it. Thank you.
That was amazing. Give it up for her one more time. All right, now we have come to intermission. We have some snacks in the back and we are going to be doing karaoke. So feel free to get up, do your thing, but get ready for some karaoke. Woo! Brother Hacky, are you ready for some karaoke? Everyone wants to hear you rap. Woo! All right, everybody, I'm going to invite you back to your seats and turn on your flashlights, please. Hand this mic to Hacky, and he'll just sit back there.
tell me. Ezra, Ezra. I'm ready. Tell me why. Tell me why. Tell me why. Tell me why. My fire, the one desire you are. I am. You are. Yeah. Do you want to hear you? Here we go. Tell me why. Tell me why. Tell me why. Tell me Cause I want it that way. Thank you. Here's your mic.
That was pretty good, wasn't it? Yeah. That was pretty fun. Bet you weren't expecting a performance from Brother Hacky. The CD will be coming out this year. Everyone purchase on iTunes. Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen. We are getting ready for the amazing Austin Pace. Austin is a communications major with a news and journalism emphasis. He wants to go into sports broadcasting and has started his own sports podcast, Pace's Playbook, say less. He works at BYU Idaho Radio as a station sport reporter and loves every second of it. Everybody, Austin Pace!
I can't hear you. I can't hear you. Get louder. Let's go. All right. Well, like she said, I do my own sports podcast, Pace's Playbook. If you're not already following on Instagram, Spotify, YouTube, go ahead and check it out. But that's not really what I want to talk about today. So have you guys ever done something, right? It doesn't matter what it is, whether it's sports related, whether, just anything. Have you ever done something and just afterwards been like, holy crap, I just did that, right? That moment of, I just did something I did not know I could do. So I finished a half marathon with zero training just a couple of months ago. And afterwards, it was that feeling of, wow, I just ran a half marathon, never done that before, and I felt so good about myself. So it got me thinking, sports, right? Sports, nutrition, just activity on any level, right? They can be something so much more than just fun or a pastime. They can be avenues for personal growth. I don't have the little clicker thing. Can I have that? Maybe. We'll just click it over. We have a blank slide right now. Thank you, sir. You can clap. I'll allow it. So let me kind of tell you guys a little bit about this story of running a half marathon. So like I said, I run a podcast called Pace's Playbook. I guess we're going through a rebrand right now, but I cover BYU, Boise State, and Utah State sports. I'm a credentialed media member there with all those schools, and it's just something where I talk about their sports. So I'm trying to get my social media presence up, and I was thinking, what can I do to gain followers really fast? So I talked with one of my coworkers at BYU Idaho Radio, and she does the social media there, and she was telling me I had this idea that I would just run a half marathon with no training to see if maybe that would get some traction. And she said it was a great idea, and I was like, all right, cool, let's do it. So I made this video. BYU was playing East Carolina University, and I said in the video, if BYU beats East Carolina by 10 or more points, then I would run a half marathon with no training. Now, let me tell you how little training that I actually have. So I hate running. I played sports all growing up, but I hate running. I never wanted to do it. Running during football practice, soccer, basketball, it just was not my thing. I hated it. The longest I'd ever run consecutively was 5 miles. And I did that like a few weeks before in Arizona with lower elevation, right? So, I mean, in Rexburg, I was thinking, crap, I'm going to die. But I didn't actually think that BYU would beat East Carolina by more than 10. Shocker, they did. So I had to gear up for running a half marathon with zero training. So my wife got on one of our electric bikes and she followed me, and I didn't know exactly where I was going. I just thought, I just need to make it 13.1 miles in Rexburg. So doing the math, I would have had to run around Rexburg like 13 times. So I kind of charted my course. I ran to Sugar City, to this little cemetery and back. And the whole time, I was feeling really good. Mile 6, I was like, oh my gosh, I'm going to do this. I'm like nearly halfway there. Mile 7, my legs started to cramp. And I was like, oh no, this is not good. I chose not to eat anything because I didn't want to risk throwing up because I was filming this whole thing. I didn't want to risk throwing up on camera, so I didn't eat anything. I might have chugged a Monster to kind of get me through it. So I was running on Monster Energy, and mile 7, I started to cramp. I was like, dang, No, I got this. I can't stop now. I'm 7 miles in. Mile 9, I had come back into Rexburg, and at that point, I had zero clue where I was going to go next. So I was running through Nature Park, and that was probably the first point where I said that I was going to quit. Was mile 9 in Nature Park. Everybody was having a great time playing pickleball or whatever, and I was running a half marathon with no training. I was dying. Mile 10 came around, and I was struggling really hard. Mile 11 was the worst. Mile 11 was the worst one. Mile 11, I was running, and like when you're running and your legs get kind of tired, you kind of like start to fall. I did. I almost fell flat on my face. My legs started to give out. But I was at mile 11. I couldn't stop, right? My wife was telling me, "You got this," as she's cheering me on an electric bike that she's barely having to pedal. But she's saying, "You can do it." And I'm like, "No, I can't." Mile 12 came around, and I'm like, okay, I've almost fallen on my face a few different times, but I've got 1.1 miles to go. When the mile marker for 13 came, I was like, the end is in sight. So I was running around Rexburg. I didn't have an actual path, and I wanted to end up back at home so I didn't have to walk very far. It was on South 5th West, is where my wife and I used to live, and there's this little median in the center entering a subdivision. And I remember running around that, and that was where I hit the point 1. 13.1 miles, done. If this will work. I ran a half marathon with no training. And I was laying there on the ground, and my legs hurt. I couldn't feel them. I knew if I was going down, I wouldn't be able to get back up, but that was a risk I was willing to take. And I looked at the watch. So the time is kind of wrong. I laid on the ground for probably a solid 2 minutes without stopping the watch. But I ran a half marathon, and I was consistent the whole way through. And I thought, holy crap, I can do hard things. Now, I wanted to quit. And there were so many different times where I thought, yeah, this is it. I'm done. Mile 11, I'm done. Mile 12, I'm done. But I went all the way through. And it hurt so bad. It was probably one of the hardest things I ever had to do. But I did it. And I learned so much about myself that day. So going back in time, I played a lot of sports growing up. And kind of like what Brady was talking about, he was small. Going into sophomore year, I was, 5'1", not big. I turned 17 in my junior year, right before COVID happened, and I was still 5'1". And just growing up, I was small. And all of my coaches told me, hey, you can try, you're just too small. You can't do this because you're too small. My favorite sport was basketball. It still is. I love basketball. But I was always told, you're not going to make a high school team because you're too small. And that really irritated me. I hated the thought of, I can't do something because someone else said so. So I decided I'm going to be the hardest worker out there. I'm going to outwork everyone. Work ethic changes everything. I decided with basketball that I would work on my shot, right? If I wasn't gonna hit a layup every time or drive to the basket and find an open shot, I decided that I was going to be the best shooter on the floor. And I was. And I played. I was still pretty young, but in 6th grade, I remember playing with a team. My dad was the coach. That was probably where, this is so sad. It's where I peaked in basketball, was 6th grade. And now I'll tell you why. I was shooting the lights out. I couldn't be stopped. It was one of those years where I would throw anything up and it would go into the hoop, right? And I wasn't defeating teams, in the paint is what they call it, with layups. I was, out dribbling them. I practiced the fundamentals, and I just worked harder than everyone, right? Football was the same way. I was small, and I didn't play as much with football because my mom was really scared that I'd get hurt. Rightfully so. I was still maybe 5 foot when I first started playing football, maybe not even 5 foot. And it was the first time I'd ever put pads on. And I'm the oldest child. My mom's always like, "Oh my gosh, don't hurt yourself." So I didn't play football for too long. But when I did, I was told that I wouldn't play because I was too small. And that irritated me yet again. So I chose to have the best hands on the field. If a ball was thrown at me, I said I would not drop the ball, right? And I didn't. Whenever the ball was thrown at me, I always caught it. But, with sports and with working harder than everybody else, there were a lot of things that translated into my everyday life, right? When I was working hard, when I was working harder than everybody else, it made me want to work harder in school. It made me want to, be a better disciple of Jesus Christ. It made me want to, show God that I was going to be devoted to him. It literally just translates into every aspect of your life. So when you're playing sports or when you're doing anything in life, you'll build up resilience. When I was running that half marathon, I told myself I would not stop. Mile 7 was when that decision really flipped for me. I would not stop. It showed me a lot of resilience. It showed that I could do hard things. When I was playing team sports, right? You build so much teamwork. You have to work as a team if you want to win, right? Especially on the basketball court, right? Of course, I was playing really well in 6th grade, but I did have to rely on my teammates. I had to learn teamwork. Discipline. That's a given. When you're playing sports, you have to be disciplined. You have to put in the work in order to, have an outcome that you want. And then growth. You're going to grow. If you're playing sports, you're going to grow. That's inevitable. So there's one guy in particular that I do want to shout out.
All right, Steph, ready?
Okay, Steph Curry. He is one of the greatest basketball players to ever hit the court. Now, his story is really interesting. This is from a movie that he put out called Underrated, and I thought it was perfect for my TED Talk. So let's give it a look.
Stephen Curry. Do not rely on him to run your team.
He was about 5'6".
Looks like a little kid.
150 pounds soaking wet. That was when I first really understood I'm different. How did I get here? I was the undersized, scrawny kid that was just trying to figure out how to make it.
Steph Curry is hurt.
I was overwhelmed by everything. How would I respond? Let the work begin.
When you are an underdog, you have to take what is yours.
Jacobson College in a Sweet 16.
It's not about proving other people wrong. It's about proving himself right.
And that feeling of being underrated will always be part of the drive that keeps me going.
Stephen Curry, underrated.
I want to ask you, who will you become? I want you guys to pick something. I'd love for it to be a sport. It doesn't have to be a half marathon. It doesn't have to be a pro sport. I just want you to pick something that's hard, that you don't think you can do. And I want you to do it. And don't give up. You will be absolutely amazed by the things you can do. Thank you.
Amazing job. That was awesome. So our next speaker up is Kaylana Clark. She's currently a junior at BYU, Idaho. She's from Western Montana. She's studying video production with minors in technical theater and creative writing. She enjoys horseback riding, tennis, reading, and she's working towards becoming a screenwriter and producer. Today, she will be speaking about anxiety through the lens of horseback riding. Let's give it up for Kaylana.
Hello. My heart is in my throat. The adrenaline is pumping. I can feel the shift of the saddle underneath me as my hands become slick on the leather. All I can hear in my head is fast hooves and the pumping of blood. I'm not sure what to do. My horse is running away under me. What do I do? How do I control it? I'm panicking. Losing control of a 1,200-pound animal is one of the scariest experiences I've ever had. If you've ever experienced it, you can probably agree with me. You feel the sheer sense of power coming from the horse taking off under you, and you feel the blurring landscape around you, taking everything that you know and turning it into mush, and you feel a sheer sense of powerlessness. Okay, maybe you don't know the feeling of losing control of a 1,200-pound animal, but I can tell you from experience, it feels a lot like anxiety. It feels a lot like a panic attack. Here's the thing. We've all had the runaway thoughts. We've all had the 3 a.m. what if spiral. We've had the thought that just ruins your day, the wave of doubt in a meeting or an interview, or that panic that you feel before you go on stage to give a speech. We've all had those moments. And the wrong instinct that we often do is to fight it. We tell the anxiety to just go away, to leave me alone, to just go away. How do I get rid of you? And that's the wrong instinct. Just like the wrong instinct is to pull back on the reins of a horse that's panicking. When you pull back on the reins of a horse that's running away, you become a part of the panic. You become part of the resistance. It starts to panic more. The same is true of anxiety. If you try to pull back, if you try to fight, you're going to find yourself losing. You're going to find yourself focusing on the anxiety, which is the exact wrong thing to do. Oh. Here's the thing. I've been an equestrian for 10 years. In those 10 years, I have worked with dozens of horses. I've trained them. I've worked with them in the round pen. I've competed on them. I've worked with horses of different varieties, different personalities, and competed in different arenas and states. I've spent a lot of time with horses. I've earned physical and some mental scars from working with these beautiful, powerful creatures. I'm also diagnosed with an anxiety disorder. Some of you may know that feeling, some of you don't, but I know we've all felt the anxiety. We all do. It's a part of everyday life. And I've learned from my years in the saddle that controlling anxiety and controlling a runaway horse are actually very similar things, and that you control them not with force, not with panic, but with calm strategy that allows you to manage it. First things first, you will not win a pulling match with a horse. End of story. The horse is bigger than you. It's stronger than you. I don't care how strong you think you are, how control you think you are in, how much control you think you have. You will not win a pulling match with a horse. I've learned this lesson the hard way. It can pull you straight off. So what you do when a horse is panicking, especially when it's panicking, is you release the tension. You yield the reins. You give some of the power back to the horse. It feels that tension in the neck release, and it's allow itself to calm down because now there's not as much fight, not as much that they're fighting. The same is true of anxiety. You yield to the emotion. You allow yourself to feel it. You acknowledge that it's there. You allow yourself to have that moment of anxiety. It's okay. Your anxiety isn't a monster. It's often just trying to protect you. So you take a deep breath. You create the mental slack that you need, and you give some of the power back. That way you're not fighting with it as hard. And then you can spot your exit. As a horseback rider, as someone who worked with horses, let's say the horse spooks at a plastic bag, common issue in horses. The worst thing you can do is focus on the plastic bag, because the horse has to focus what you're focusing on. So if you're focused on the plastic bag, they're focused on the plastic bag, and all of a sudden you have a panicking horse who can't take his eyes off the plastic bag. So once you've yielded some of the power back, you then steer towards an exit, whether that's a different path, an open field, someplace in the arena that's not full of something that is scary. You find an okay. You find an out. You find an exit. For many, and remember this, where the head goes, the body must follow. I'm going to say that again. Where the head goes, the body must follow. The same is true of anxiety. Where the head goes, the body must follow. When you're in a sense of panic, your body tends to freeze up. You tend to lose control of it. You become less aware of what's going on around you. One way you can bring yourself back, one way you can spot an exit out of your own mind to calm down is the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 method. This is 5 things you can see, 4 things you can touch, 3 things you can hear, 2 things you can smell, and 1 thing you can taste. This connects your mind and your body back to what's going on around you. You become aware of what's going on around you, and you can allow yourself to calm down. The next thing is to practice in the calm. Like I said, I've been working with horses for 10 years. In these 10 years, I have spent hours upon hours, weeks upon weeks, sometimes months upon months in the round pen with a horse trying to train it, setting down the groundwork. You run them in circles, you wave things in their faces, you throw things on them and around them, but you do this in a safe and calm environment. You do this in a place that's familiar to the horse so that they know that they are in a safe place. And in that time, you build a partnership with the horse, a bond of trust. They learn to trust you, you learn to trust the horse, and you create a way for you to both handle the situation. You can't train for a crisis in the crisis. So you practice in the calm and associate these scary things with being calm and being in a calm place. Groundwork with horses looks like hours in the round pen. For you, it probably looks a little bit more like that 5 minutes of mindfulness or meditation in the morning. It looks like that breathing exercise that you do on the way to work. It's the minutes of journaling. You don't train for a panic attack in a panic attack. So you set down the groundwork in your own life. You do these day after day, and you get your mind associated with them with being calm, with being in a safe place. So that when you do have a panic attack, you can turn to these, and you can allow your brain to associate yourself with being calm. You create a partnership and a bond with your own mind in these moments that you do these things, so that you can learn to trust your mind to calm down in the situations when you start doing these things. So when you do have a panic attack, once again, you turn to these, and you learn how to calm yourself down. The goal is not to have a bomb-proof horse. You've probably heard of the concept of it. A horse that spooks at nothing. I've never seen one. If anyone has, please let me know. I'd love to meet him. But there's no such thing as a bomb-proof horse. You're not trying to train your mind to have a bomb-proof mind. You're going to spook. It happens to the best of us. But the goal is to become a compassionate rider of your horse or a compassionate rider of your mind. You learn how to treat yourself with compassion, treat yourself with trust. You learn how to set down the groundwork. You learn how to yield some of the control back to the emotion. You learn how to spot your exit. These are important things that will help you so that when you do spook, you've already set these down and you can trust yourself to come back to the calm. Like I said, anxiety isn't a monster. It's an emotion, a very powerful one, that is just trying to often protect you. So you learn how to work with it, create a partnership with it. So learn to become a compassionate rider of your mind and learn to take the reins. Thank you.
is success measured? Is it by how many likes you get on Instagram, how much money you have, how many people know who you are, or how many points you score in a game? We live in a world that measures worth by comparison. What if there was another way? One that led to connection instead of comparison. Today, I want to share a message about how we can choose community over comparison. Theodore Roosevelt once said, "Comparison is the thief of joy." Comparison only leads to two things: pride or disappointment. Either you feel like you are better than everyone else, or you just feel like you'll never measure up. How isolating. On the other hand, a feeling of community brings us together. We feel connection when we have community. What does the word community mean? Community has two definitions in the Merriam-Webster dictionary. The first definition is what many of us think of when we hear the word community. It is a feeling or a common area with people living within it or having a certain characteristic in common. Although this is what many of us think of when we think of our community and our neighborhoods, I'm talking about the second definition of community. It is a feeling of connection and knowing that the people around us have common interests, goals, and understandings. We live in a diverse world. We can encourage community by replacing comparison with a feeling of love and encouragement for those around us. I want to share a story about sports like many of my classmates. I grew up in a basketball family. My two older sisters played all the way through high school, and one even played into college. My family was known for having the three girls that played basketball. When I was a sophomore in high school, I was cut from the basketball team that I'd been playing with for years. I was heartbroken. But the sad part was that I was less sad about the feelings of not being able to play the sport that I loved, but I was worried about what everyone else would think of me. How was I going to go home to my parents and tell them that their youngest daughter had been cut from that team? How was I going to tell my sisters that I would not be following in their path and playing basketball all 4 years? I worried about what the people in my classes would think of me because that's what I had been known for, was playing basketball. After all, I am 5'10". Even though I had all of these doubts, I knew that there were still things in my life and ways that I could contribute to my community, to my area. So I decided that I was going to continue to develop skills in my life that brought meaning and value to the people around me. I started to develop leadership workshops in connection to leadership opportunities within the FFA organization. I loved this experience. Although I had been cut from that team and I wasn't doing what everyone else thought I would be, I still felt value. My senior year, the basketball coaches reached out to me and asked me to come and give a development workshop for their team, the team that I had played with for so many years. I was completely shocked, but I realized that even though I wasn't contributing to that team by making points or playing defense, I was still able to use the gifts that I had to contribute to the people that I cared about. What you bring to the table matters. In 2018, the Journal of Social Psychology published results from a study on the effects of living in a diverse environment. When I say the word diversity, I don't necessarily mean the color of someone's skin or the language that they speak or where they're from, but I mean also the gifts and talents that they bring to the table. In this study, the study resulted in two major findings. First, people who lived in diverse environments and embraced diversity were more able to connect with all of humanity, and they were more likely to help a stranger or neighbor in need. By embracing diversity, we allow growth in our communities. We allow more of a feeling of charity and compassion for those around us. When we hide, we withhold the opportunity for others to grow and to connect with us because of our unique abilities. In my situation, I was able to see that my personal skills and development mattered to the people around me. It made my environment better and not worse that I was different from what everybody thought I would be. Within communities of vast diversity, feelings of inclusion and connection thrive. But we can still be very intentional about how we allow connection in our community. It starts small. And with one simple thing, we can change a lot. First, we can choose to be curious before judging those around us. Oftentimes, we see just the person in front of us and we don't ask very many questions. According to Michael Solomon, a social expert in psychology, we make 11 assumptions about someone we meet within the first 7 seconds of meeting them. Those assumptions are based off of how someone looks, how they speak, the confidence that they exude, and many other visual factors. In reality, these assumptions are often incorrect. By being curious and asking people questions, we can come to know who they truly are, what their story is, and why they are the person they are. Another thing we can do is celebrate other people's wins. We can remind ourselves that their win is not our loss. We live in a world of social media that tells us that everyone's life is better than us. But in reality, we have the ability to uplift and help others to know that we care about their wins and that their win is not our loss. Last, we can use technology to connect, not isolate. Technology has opened up doors to what we can do today. We can speak with so many people, but we can also use it as a way to hide from the world, a way to avoid social connection, which is really just damaging. We can choose to use the phones in our pockets as a way to connect rather than to isolate. When the world and social pressure tell you that your worth is based off of numbers, I invite you to remember that you live within a community that needs you. I invite you to do the simple things that bring in a community of inclusion and connection. And that's how we turn strangers into community and competition into connection. Thank you.